Hey, it's Tony Brueski, and this is our week in review over the weekend, taking a look back at some of the most compelling conversations and stories that we've covered for you of the last week. Brand new episodes back Monday morning, bright and early, 5 a.m. here on the podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring author, psychologist, and daily contributor, Siobhan Scott.
The Take Care of Maya trial, where did things go off the track? They obviously were met with these really fantastical claims from mom and from dad, urgent, hysteric as one would be a lot of times when you're a parent. If your child is in pain, you're wanting, to get them the help that they need. Did the hospital, were they remiss in anything after the initial, diagnosis of their own or view of this on their own? Should they have contacted Maya's previous doctor, albeit them not board certified, and an anesthesiologist? Should they at least have had some sort of communication to get a better grasp on what was going on? And why wouldn't they? Why didn't they?
Ethically, we, all healthcare professionals, I'm a healthcare professional, we are supposed to consult and collaborate. And this is drummed into our heads, right, over and over. But in my practice, I've seen there are some doctors who are very willing to be collaborative, and I may call them. They call me back immediately. They're willing to consult. Often we consult frequently. But I have to say those doctors are in the minority. And I think very often now doctors are under so much time pressure. They're so busy. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's difficult for them. It's difficult for them to find each other. But I think a really quality standard of care is that doctors consult, they talk with other people who have provided treatment, and they collaborate. And ideally, we want these cases to be collaborative, not hostile and confrontive. And I think because of perhaps the way the mom came in, basically firing guns, I mean, not literally, but, with her aggressiveness, it put the hospital in a defensive state of mind. And then when we had the doctor that was actually working for children's welfare, DCS, I believe they call it in Florida, she came in very heavy-handed and very adversarial. And that only amplified what eventually became this legal power struggle. They hired attorneys. The hospital's risk management, which is the legal department, were really dictating treatment at that point. And it was not a collaborative approach, which is so sad, because if everybody, my fantasy would be get them all in the same room at the same time, everybody pull out their records, everybody pull out what they had seen, and go over it in a collaborative way, right? We're here to help the child. It's not a power struggle. That did not happen here. And I think it shows a fragmented healthcare system, which is affecting all of us ultimately.
Without a doubt. One of the things that we focused on a bit was the fact that individual we're talking about there, who was charged with being the child welfare advocate with DCF, I believe, hired by the hospital itself, Miss Betty, she had a record in the past of, she was put into jail overnight a while back and had been charged with kneeling on a child. She has denied those charges. But if you look at the account of what happened at another facility, which she was fired at, and then a $2.5 million settlement was given to that victim, I was fairly shocked that she was working with children at all. I would think that after a moment like that, you would lose some sort of accreditation or licensing, or you just wouldn't be hired after just a little bit of vetting. Should she have even been in that setting to begin with?
No. And even if she did not have these, pre-existing problems, which I agree are glaring and should have probably resulted in loss of her license, putting her in this position as gatekeeper and basically being dictated to by the risk management department, she was in way over her head with this. And I would think, again, you would have more mental health clinicians involved. You would have a team approach. And again, this was a failure on the hospital's part to set it up this way.
Sure. I mean, and you do have to look at the reality of thousands of cases do come in a year. Not everyone is going to go completely perfect. It's just when things don't go well and they go way off the tracks, it gets to be very, quite extreme, where like we can't go that far off the tracks the way that this one seemed to go. With all that being said, one of the big arguments in this case, and probably the main reason why we're even aware of this case to the level that we are, is because the mother, Maya's mother, committed suicide midway through all of this, which, obviously people have mental health problems and depression and anxiety. And I can't imagine a more anxiety-ridden situation than what she was going through, while at the same time being a parent. I don't want to take myself away from being a parent, and I still would want to be there to help my child get through this. So regardless of the decision-making process there or how it went down through what she was going through, can you really make an argument and say that because of this, and it goes far beyond a mishap here, is responsible for the death of Maya's mother, Beata? Has this ever been done before to make an argument like this in court, to go anywhere with a medical facility, as we're seeing here?
It's not something I've heard of before. The suicide is just an absolute tragedy. And my sense of the mom from watching all the testimony is that she had some vulnerabilities. I'm not saying she had severe mental illness at all, which some people would portray her that way, but I think she had some vulnerabilities. Her sister testified that when she grew up in Poland, that there had been some trauma history. And a trauma history can leave a person very reactive and tending to be over emotional. And that's my guess, that she was vulnerable here, because if she had been thinking rationally and understanding, she was under stress, but still, father was under stress and he stayed pretty grounded. Mom, I think, became less and less grounded in reality over time as this went on. And to suicide is really one of the greatest forms of child abuse you can commit. True. Because the children will never have a normal life after that. I mean, they are going to carry that form of grief, particularly for Maya. If her mind were to go, which I would guess it was, is that if I had not gotten sick, my mother would still be here. So to suicide under these circumstances, I mean, worst case scenario, if Maya had gone into foster care, awful. But at 18, she would have been back in mom's life. And it's sort of like mom could not see that by doing this, I am really hurting my children. And that says to me, mom was not grounded in reality and had some vulnerabilities, I think, going into this. I'm sure she was a wonderful person, as many people have attested to. But it was really this confluence of awful things that just all came together, which makes this case so weird. The other thing is that when mom suicided, she did it in the home, in the garage, but just adjacent to the kitchen. And her little boy very easily could have been the one that walked in and found her body. And the fact that she was not thinking about that, I can't imagine as a mom, no matter how upset I am, always putting myself in someone else's shoes and trying to imagine, thinking that by killing myself in the home in this way, that this is a good decision.
Sure.
It's awful.
It really shows, just how much the blinders can go up when someone is in that sort of a mental state, and how it took someone to get there that she was unable to see further down the road. And that seemed like the only option for her. Just an overall totally tragic case. And of course, we'll continue to follow it here. Thank you for keeping an eye on this and taking a deeper dive into it than we have here in the past.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.